So as the sports media landscape transitions into streaming, we're seeing the NBA have a major fallout with their former partner TNT, and to a degree it is their fault, but no one saw it coming that NBC would give the NBA a higher offer than they did for the NFL. $27 billion for 11 years versus the Kings of Television getting $22 billion for 11 years. That has caused TNT to scramble and actually match Amazon's C package, which is having far fewer games and exclusive rights to the in-season tournament and a few conference finals. But another monkey wrench to throw it at it all is the contract language of what exactly is a match. Amazon's global reach versus TNT's reach is part of that matching. It's all in the contract language. So the NBA had rejected their offer, and TNT has promised to countersuit and try to take a chunk out of the NBA before that relationship sours. But with very keen insight, John Skipper right here, former president of ESPN, along with former Florida Marlins president David Samson, as well as Pablo Torre, spoke on the inner nuances of this situation. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
No, it's pretty official. Amazon has the whole thing up already. You can go on Amazon right now and see they're promoting NBA 2025, the whole package. So it's very clear that Adam Silver, as commissioner of the NBA, had a plan. And his plan was to get a triple of his media rights deals. And his plan was to not do a deal with TNT and Warner Brothers Discovery. Rumors are that he's upset with David Zaslav because he said we don't need the NBA in an earnings call. Adam Silver may be that spiteful, but I don't think that that's good business to be spiteful in general.
I disagree with the first thing you said, which is he started with the premise that he did not want to do a deal with TNT. I believe he started with the premise that he would renew his 2 deals and he would add a 3rd player, and probably thought maybe a digital service would be a good 3rd player. The emergence of NBC probably changed all that calculus.
It definitely did. They offered more money than the NFL. But interesting, John Skipper right here, former president of ESPN, he said that they wanted to do the deal with TNT, but they wanted to bring in an additional partner. And that's why Amazon was allowed in that exclusive negotiating window that the NBA had with TNT. That's why they were allowed to be part of that. But obviously things didn't work out within that negotiating window. Amazon started negotiating directly with the league for their C package. NBC came out of nowhere and offered $2.5 billion just for the B package. And of course, ESPN has the A package with over 100 games.
I do believe that he did make an offer to WBD. Yes, you can renew what you have now, or most of what you have now, for the following number. And it's been reported that that number was around $2.3 billion. So I think he pivoted when they said no. And again, it's been reported they thought that $2.1 billion was the most they would pay.
They probably was looking at those NFL numbers. That's too close to the NFL without having those ratings. But also what they should have factored in is that there's going to be an additional fee because everyone is fighting to be the first ones in the live sporting sphere in streaming. So they want audiences to get to know them first under the new live television format of streaming. Because with these deals, they're locked in for 11 years. And it's not even guaranteed that TNT would even be around by then.
There was an exclusive negotiating period, and I would like to just inform you that the NBA was not exclusively negotiating with TNT. They're going to tell you they were because that is what they have to do under their agreements. But anytime there's the right of first refusal or an exclusive period, there's so much going on the side, quietly, in the hallways where people aren't paying attention. So I don't believe that Adam Silver went through that exclusive negotiating window with TNT with the view that there was going to be a deal with TNT and had nothing ready to go. Because the pivot that you're describing, those don't happen like in 10 seconds. So I believe that there was plenty of groundwork laid and that Adam knew exactly where this was going. And that has manifested itself in Adam's statements, his lack of real worry over this lawsuit, his ability to go in front of the world in a microphone and say, it's complicated, but we've got 3 partners and we're announcing it with press releases and quotes.
Well, I don't think that contradicts what I said. I believe that the NBA put in front of WBD. So how do you answer the question of if WBD had said yes, they would have a deal
For 2.3.
for 2.3.
So I would tell you that he put in front. Have you ever made an offer to someone that you know they can't accept or they won't accept?
Interesting that David Sampson had brought this up because it's rumored within those Amazon negotiations, there is an upfront payment for about 4 to 5 years. And it leaves us to wonder if the NBA, along with Amazon, structured it that way, knowing that TNT was unlikely to match. It's a $20 billion 11-year deal. So imagine TNT paying $7 billion up front at the start of the deal. We know Amazon got that money floating around.
Sometimes it's a low ball. Sometimes it's that you're making them do something you know they can't do. And that's the whole case we're in right now.
Well, of course, there is no way we can know that. It is my belief, based not upon firsthand knowledge, but about knowing the parties involved a bit and how these things work. I do believe they made a good faith offer that WBD could have accepted, and if they had, they would have the NBA rights. I don't think it was a trick. And by the way, again, I don't have...
There's a lot in between a trick and a good faith offer.
And also at the same time, these guys had to come correct. So once the NBA gave them the number that they expected, TNT would have to come correct off rip because they have very little leverage. Their business is still attached to cable TV where subscribers are dwindling. They don't have the reach from the other potential partners that's coming into play. Amazon alone has the real estate of Thursday Night Football that they could attach the NBA to get the ratings up. TNT not only had these things going against them, they also cannot match Amazon's offer with just that property being attached to Thursday Night Football. There's multiple layers of what TNT could not match versus Amazon, including global reach.
I like that David is positing the opposite of a Godfather offer. It is an offer you must refuse.
It's an offer that you can't not refuse. Exactly. And I love what you're saying because you use the words good faith, and that's part of the lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
Good faith, as we know, that's a legal term. It's not just between friends at a dinner.
It is a legal term, but as you know, a very difficult term to adjudicate on.
Which is why I don't think WBD can prevail here. But I understand why you have to say that the NBA did all this in good faith, because that is one of the basic tenets of the lawsuit. However, to not give NBA credit, and I think it's insulting to the NBA to say that they did not have an alternate plan.
Well, no, they always had, and I've said this repeatedly, they always had, all you have to have is one more bidder than you have packages. They knew they had more than 3 bidders at some point. I don't think that led them to go, well, we want to cut TNT out. I genuinely believe that at the start of the negotiation, they would have been quite happy if TNT and ESPN had renewed. They took some content from both parties, took some content that was formerly regional. That's why Mr. Dolan has protested, and made a third package. And they would have been happy if that third package was Amazon, because they did want a digital partner. They would have also have listened, however, to NBC. And if ESPN, as reported, paid 2.6 and NBC paid 2.5, they would have been happy with a 2.6, 2.5.
Woo, that's kind of crazy. ESPN paid 2.6 for the A package. That's including well over 80 games and also the NBA Finals. The fact that NBC almost paid the same amount of money for far less, it shows you that they're making a major play to gain real estate in the live sports streaming world going forward. They want people to think of them as the brand new ESPN when it comes to streaming.
2.3, that would have given them more money. I think they would have settled for NBC, WBD, and ESPN. They were in the proverbial catbird seat.
That wasn't the third package, the 2.3.
No, I'm suggesting that
it would have been more assets.
I'm suggesting that they could have, if WBD had said, yes, we'll do 2.3, ESPN said, yes, we'll do 2.6, you still have a very hungry NBC, which could have paid 2 point something, and they could have actually ended up with even more money with those 3 parties had that happened. Now, I'm not suggesting that was ever the contemplated end game here.
Yeah, but John Skipper knows inside information. He knows NBC is making a major play to combat ESPN when it comes to direct to consumer with live sports streaming. He knows that. So they're aggressive. The NBA, if they were pretty shrewd, they possibly could have got 3 packages almost at the same price point. No wonder there were rumors of a potential 4th package.
They might have decided that being on a streaming service was worth taking a little bit less money in order to be on the kind of service that in the future will be almost exclusively the parties that are carrying sports.
So I want to give an update here. Andrew Marchand at The Athletic provides a, quote, interesting nugget. That's his own phrasing here. Amazon joined the exclusive negotiating period after the NBA secured permission from TNT and ESPN to bring them in. On this note, I am told TNT Sports initiated the idea of bringing Amazon in. TNT declined comment. End quote.
So that's when you partner up with someone who has something to bring to the table that you don't have, where the NBA wanted the reach of an Amazon and of their streaming platform, and TNT couldn't match it with Max because not as many subs, and it doesn't have the reach or the power. So when you don't think that you can answer an RFP, whether it's a request for proposal, whether it's to build a building or whether it's to do a TV deal, you often do a joint venture. You partner. That's what mergers are, basically. So is there a world where TNT and Amazon would have made a joint bid, in theory, for an NBA package? It would not have been the C package. It would have been a joint bid for an A/B package.
Yeah.
And it shows you the desperation of TNT to still go for a C package at $1.8 billion a year. Again, during the exclusive negotiating window, the NBA might have came at them for 2.3 to 2.4 for the B package.
I think the answer is mostly yes. We're clearly in very speculative territory, so I have no knowledge that this could have happened. But WBD could have been thinking, gee, maybe the NBA will be satisfied with our 2-1 instead of 2-3 if Amazon comes up with $1.5 billion, $1.8 billion, $2 billion, and they'll be fine. That's kind of not the way it works. You don't, it would have satisfied them had NBC not clearly been, the NBC was very public. I would disagree that there were negotiations with NBC. The reason NBC was very public with it was to make sure Adam understood if for some reason WBD doesn't step up to what you want, we're here. Come see us as soon as you have gotten through your exclusive negotiating period. I got it.
John,
people have lunches.
Your
people
theory
talk.
is that they did it through the media? And NBC let Adam Silver know, God, I hope he buys the Post today.
I got to say, I did a lot of negotiations with leagues, including baseball, and I never tried to negotiate for somebody else's content before they got through their exclusive negotiating period. I often told people, get through your period and we'll talk about it. We didn't.
What's that?
Well, that's not negotiating. That is simply letting them know you're there as a partner.
You don't think that impacts how we would act during an exclusive negotiating period if you know that there's someone waiting for you on the other side with an open wallet and a big hug, that it makes you play hardball during that exclusive period?
Of course, but I also was on the other side of that, meaning I often had the exclusive negotiating period, and I believed my job was never to get out of that so that they could go talk to them. And I do believe in my negotiations with MLB and with NFL and NHL, and in NHL, I could never get them out of the exclusive negotiating period with other people in most cases. They ended up doing the deal before I got a chance to put an offer on the table. So I do think the leagues are very careful not to do anything that gives anyone the right to dispute that their exclusive negotiating period was violated.
John,
exclusive negotiating period doesn't mean that you can't talk to somebody and say, I'll be here for you. But if you think I'm kidding about ever sitting in a room with a league and going, here's what I'll do for you if they don't pay you, I never did that.
But John Skipper already knows negotiations were already shaky. That's why Amazon was brought in as a third partner during that exclusive negotiating window. So word around the campfire is going to get out there.
So let me make sure.
David, for the YouTube and DraftKings audience, is almost seizuring
No, you're saying something that it struck a chord, and I want to make sure I heard it right. The NHL, let's talk about the past of the NHL and their fees and their rights deals. Do we agree that they were not getting a lot of money for their TV? Are you willing to at least acknowledge that?
Would depend what you mean by a lot of money. They were not getting as much money as the other leagues because
They had a very hard time getting a TV deal.
No, they didn't have a hard time getting a TV deal. They had an easy time getting a TV deal. They had a hard time getting the amount of money they wanted to get from a TV deal.
Thank you. I'm very sorry. And so when you say that they did not take advantage of your willingness to do a deal because you never got them out of their exclusive negotiating period, did you say that exactly?
Yeah, I can't have the exact recollection because I tried to get an NHL package at least 2 cycles and did not succeed. I do not believe they ever came out, in at least one of those, I do not believe they ever came out of their negotiating window. I don't think I ever got to negotiate when they were out of their exclusive window.
But when you saw the deal that was done, did you say to your people at ESPN, wow, we would have done twice that?
No, never twice that. But would I have paid more money? Probably. The answer is probably yes.
And so there was no way for you to get that information to anyone?
No, because the rules of engagement are they can't call me legally. They cannot call me and say, oh, by the way, John, I'm going to get $200 million. Would you pay $225?
I've been in some bad rooms, I think, because I understand you're saying legally and you're right. But what blows me away is that if ESPN or anybody, it's like when you're selling a house, it's when you're doing anything. If you know that the market is there to get more for your asset, you're going to do whatever you have to do to maximize the value of your asset. And the NHL was desperate to get better TV deals.
And you could tell word around the campfire was already getting out with the special announcements some of these companies were making. ESPN saying they're going to go direct to consumer by 2025. And also ESPN, Fox Sports, and Discovery announcing that they're going to do a bundle under one platform. So the marketplace is hungry for content, and the NBA has the audience regardless of the ratings.
To the legal question at the heart of TNT's objection here, which is that we matched. We had a right to match. Amazon provided X. We're also ready to provide X. And the NBA, now this is their quote from their spokesman, Mike Bass, Warner Brothers Discovery's claims are without merit and our lawyers will address them, period, end quote.
Oh.
Now, for some of you listening, WBD is Warner Brothers Discovery. They're the parent company of TNT. Just a FYI.
So great.
It's so good, and they saved $20,000.
I like how this is also the show where we become aroused by press releases.
It's not ideal.
But
Only
I get
fans for press releases.
That's right.
But you see the difference? I want to point out to the audience.
It's
incredible.
It indicates a confidence, and I believe that it's also to WBD. It reeks of an arrogance. But I wonder how justified, truly, like, my understanding is, and I want you guys to corroborate this or refute it, is that the clause in the contract, the matching clause, was not so specific, given that it was written at the time that John and TNT at the time negotiated it. It was not so narrowly defined about streaming or anything else. But there is this implication that Amazon is a company that cannot be matched by its very nature by TNT and WBD.
And that contract that was constructed around 2014 and then officially signed by 2017, these streaming players weren't this large. So with TNT taking this to court, is there something in that contract language that binds the NBA to that matching clause? And with the league going forward, is there any language in the contracts where they can collect data and have access to the audience's information? Make no mistake about it. Amazon, Netflix, NBC through their app, they're going to be collecting data. And that part of the game alone could be worth just as much as those contracts.
It's a very interesting legal question because the matching provisions are always very hazy. Because as we said on a previous episode here, it's not that you write down 10 points and that one company agrees to them and then the other company just has to agree to those 10 points and then it's a full match. It's a very complicated deal that you negotiate.
Right. Remember, that would have been done back in 2013 or 2014. So you couldn't have known how many subscribers Amazon was going to have. You couldn't have known how many countries they were going to be
Right.
in or how many people watched them. So you couldn't write in there, oh, gee, if Amazon had 200 million subscribers around the world, you have to match that. So probably I have the feeling, and I think you'll agree, David, that the NBA here has the stronger legal case. I don't think for a moment that they would release that statement unless they had talked to their lawyers. They have very good lawyers internally and externally, and they've told them, you have nothing to worry about should this come to a quick resolution in a court of law. Now you get to a more interesting question, which is, it doesn't mean, even though the NBA may be right about that WBD cannot create consternation, spilkus for the NBA.
That's just a sweet way of saying, let's just put the NBA through a bunch of mental hurdles through long litigation.
Agree with that, David?
I do, but I think I'd like you to go then back to my original statement, which is the NBA got its confidence and it got the ability to release a one-phrase statement because they had lawyered this deal with Amazon so thoroughly with the matching provision in mind. Remember, the lawyers for the NBA know the matching provision. They were there. And Adam Silver's no dummy. You know that. And he doesn't suffer fools gladly. When he's doing Amazon, he's telling Amazon, we're not using you as a stalking horse. Trust me. Warner Brothers cannot match this. You keep going with us. You are going to be our partner.
Yeah.
I believe
basically
that's
said
how
that.
it went down.
He followed it step by step. He said, there's 5 days. You have 5 days to show you can match. WBD did on the 5th day. And I believe the next day or the day after,
It was the
I
next
can't
day.
remember.
Monday to a
the
Tuesday.
next day, they released a statement that said, this is not
No
a
match.
Yeah.
And then they
Nah.
announced. So
Period.
what Adam Silver did even more as an up FU to WBD, they did a press release, a far bigger one than that one sentence, when they announced their deal with Amazon, with NBC, and with ESPN, with full quotes from all of the principals of those companies, including the NBA. So while Adam can call a press conference and say, listen, it's complicated, I don't want to get too far into it, the fact is he's all in, that he is going to win this case.
Well, and just think, Amazon is not going to do the negotiation unless, as you pointed out, they're convinced that there is no way to match. They're not going to put their names on a press release, which was probably done before the 5th day was over. They did take a look at what WBD sent them. They're like, oh, just as we thought, they cannot match. But so Amazon has satisfied themselves they're in a good legal position. NBC has satisfied themselves that they're in a good legal position. Because remember, theoretically, WBD, didn't they suggest they could match either one?
So the case is actually, would like an injunction. What they're actually asking for is to get rid of all three. They're
Right.
asking the court to say that we're going to stop the NBA from doing a deal with anybody while we figure this out. That's what WBD wants, but they're not going to get that injunction, but that's what they've asked for.
Right? So now I just want to recap what WBD has been doing. They hired this press release, this fancy press firm to release all of these things into the world. They're working journalists, talking heads, people behind the scenes. Again, we started with a 2-part statement from TNT. The first part about the legal case, the second part about the fans. And Charles Barkley, the most famous broadcaster, the greatest broadcaster in the history of NBA broadcasting, you might argue, has said the same thing. He's echoed this. So they're working the PR side, the public relations side, the civic unrest side. So what is the end game here? So they have these 2 tracks.
They're suing for either specific performance, which means they want the judge to say, all right, you matched it, you get to do NBA games. Or in the alternative, if you're not going to grant me the right to broadcast NBA games, then pay me.
So
Those are the 2 things they want. That the judge is unlikely to grant an injunction.
Yes.
And that I agree with you, because there's a year left on the deal, and there's no way that Warner Brothers is walking into court and saying, we are so damaged by what's happening that if you don't, that's what an injunction is, if you don't stop it right this second, every minute is like multiple damages. That's hard to convince the court when it comes to this deal with the NBA. But if the injunction is not granted, which I don't think it will be, and there's no settlement, then you proceed toward a trial, a case.
Ooh. TNT is not going to take it that far. They're just hoping for a quick payout or who knows, maybe a discount on that final year.
Hard to me that I don't know this, but it seems hard to me that WBD thinks they're going to prevail in a court case, either get an injunction or actually go to trial and see a verdict that says, well, actually, you're right, and you're going to get the NBA. So that means they must think they're going to get something else. And the only thing I can think of is they think they're going to create enough consternation that they're going to put lawyers in a room and say, what would you settle for? And my guess is what they would settle for is money. At one point, it occurred to me that what they might like is actually to be relieved of their obligation to pay 1.2, 1.3 billion dollars in the upcoming season, and let Amazon or NBC start early. And that way, Mr. Zaslav could say to his board, not only did I not overpay for 11 years of the NBA, but I'm going to save $1 billion, $1.5 billion. Now, that creates all sorts of problems. I don't think NBC, busy with the Olympics, suddenly wants to turn around and do another season of the NBA right away, or start in the NBA right away. Amazon doesn't have the production capabilities to do that.
They can take Turner's people.
Well, exactly. And then maybe Turner could save even more money by charging Amazon to do the production.
Take Barkley.
Yeah.
And also TNT is in their final year dealing with Comcast. So they're going to have to renegotiate. And I'm pretty sure they don't want their final numbers for 2025 to not include NBA ratings. Companies usually want to see recent stats, and that's not going to really look too good. And there are some more inner nuances with them renegotiating with Comcast. That is the parent company of NBC, who basically made an offer that the NBA couldn't refuse, thus messing up the deal for them.
Barkley
Take 'em
off
all.
their hands
Well,
and pay for that. So I can only think that they're expecting somehow to save some money out of this.
That's an interesting theory,
Yes.
because what you're saying is that the end game for WBD would be forget the fact that we want the extra deal. We don't even want this current deal. It was an overpay what we're doing now.
Yeah,
Which their
not the
stock
way
price.
they'd put it, of course, right? They'd put it that you're causing us, by refusing our matching right, you're damaging us. We're going to continue with our suit. But if you would like to make us a financial offer, we will go away. We'll save some money. My board maybe will be happy, and you start with your new partners. I don't know that.
Did you budget nuisance fees with ESPN? We used to budget them. With our team.
So
Nuisance is when someone sues you,
Yeah.
and you just don't feel like dealing with it, so you pay them. Whether it's a foul ball, whether someone
Is that a
slip and
legal
fall.
term, nuisance fee?
That's just what I would call it. It's like, don't bother me. It's like a gnat. Like, it's not worth it to have my lawyer spend 1 hour talking to you.
Every big company settles suits that they believe are more of a nuisance than the money involved is worth doing, right? It's sort of funny because people always assume, well, if you settled, you must be guilty. It's not true. Always. It may be true sometimes, but sometimes it's just, oh, it's going to cost me $10,000 to make this person go away. It's going to cost me $100,000 to
In legal
adjudicate
fees
it.
and in time.
I'll just pay the 10 because we can afford to. It's not an admission of guilt.
So the NBA they could have in their mind a number. And that's how settlements happen, where the NBA would say, you know what, this just is not worth it to me anymore. We will pay you, David Zaslav, to disappear.
I'm trying to get a sense of the weapons left on the table, the moves, the punishing nature of what it means to be in negotiations against not just a media company, but in Comcast, something that is doing deals with media companies like WBD, right? The difference between being, give me the term of art, John, between being a media company like TNT versus a cable company, now more than that in Comcast.
Well, what's interesting, of course, is it's already been speculated that NBC may have included in their calculations for doing an NBA deal the fact that they would be taking it from a company that's going to be asking them for distribution fees. It was reported this week, I believe, by John Arand, that the deal, that last deal that Turner did, not WBD, but TNT, TBS, True TV, perhaps among other channels, ends deliciously December 31st, 2025, which will be about 2 months into the new NBA deal that NBC holds.
So once again, they'll be entering into those negotiations without the NBA, just only a few months out. So ratings might dip for just those few months. But the parent company, NBC, regardless, could be looking to save some of that money that they gave the NBA on the TNT deal.
They're holding their larger company, Comcast, will have the opportunity to renegotiate the fees that they pay True TV, TBS, TNT at that point. It has been reported that TNT gets $3. TBS probably gets something not too far from that. True TV gets something very far from that.
Out of the monthly cable bill.
Out of the monthly, well, it's not a monthly, it's out of the monthly cable bill, not directly. The distributor pays for the content. They then put it in a bundle of content. They mark it up an appropriate amount or an inappropriate, depending on what you think, amount, and that's what they charge the consumer. The consumer has no idea what they're paying for TBS, TNT, and True TV.
The consumer may not know what they're paying for, but all they know, that package now does not include the NBA. So how attractive really is going to be that package? Comcast will consider this in their renegotiations.
But this deal will come up, interestingly enough, at the end of 25. Let's say that they're getting approximately somewhere between $5 and $7. That means if they don't renew the deal, and let's say they have 12 million subscribers at the time, that's somewhere between $60 and $84 million a month. They did just buy at one of the networks, TNT or TBS, 2 college football games, one of which may be on the first day they'd be off the air. That holds some power. I don't think it has enough power to prevent Comcast from saying, we're not going to pay you $9 next year, nor $8, nor $7. We'd like to pay you less. And just as Comcast just took Diamond off for what, about 3 months?
Regional Sports Network. Yep.
They'll take these channels off the air, and they can take that money, theoretically, off of the price they paid for the NBA. Oh, we paid $2.5, yeah, but we'll save about $75 million every month they're not on the air. I do not believe all that matters then is whether some of their 12 million or so subscribers at the time decide, oh, I want to see that college game bad enough that I'm going to switch to somebody else, YouTube TV or the new cable bundle that will feature all the sports channels, which includes True TV, TBS, and so there'll be a big fight here. And I do believe that this will cost WBD some money because they're either going to get lower distribution fees or they're going off the air for some period of time in January 2026.
Man,
I just wanted to simplify 2 things that were said there. I'm trying to follow, and I did, but I just want to say, make sure I have this right. When you can do a deal where you make yourself stronger, but you also make your opponent weaker, that increases the breadth of the victory that you have by doing a deal. Is there a world where Comcast and NBC got together and said, if we get the NBA and TNT doesn't, not only do we have the NBA and TNT doesn't, but also we have as part of our world a cable company called Comcast, where people pay us every month to get cable channels. One of the cable channels we get that we give our customers is TNT. But now who wants TNT? It's a bunch of SVU and Law and Order. There's going to be no basketball, maybe a football game once in a while.
TBS
maybe
is going to have some college football
They'll have
games,
the French Open. They've got stuff. But
Stanley Cup
without...
playoffs.
And that old business model, just TNT bundling so many things, TBS and TNT will get some of the top-notch games while TBS will get some other games that you want, followed by, let's say, if they had a local network. Very similar to ESPN having ABC. They put the finals on that local network. That type of bundling worked under the old model. But when it comes to streaming, audiences don't really have the patience for that. It's more direct to consumer. It's more on demand. You watch it when you want it, however you want it. You can hit pause and come back and watch it another day. But that very same bundling is hurting Comcast customers. They're paying a lot more money for it. It has far more programming that they don't want versus what they want. And by NBC doing the deal, they just cut out the middleman. They no longer have to pay a premium on a TNT package just to offer their customers.
Without the NBA, people are really not going to want TNT the way they did. Therefore, we're not going to pay TNT for its content the way we did. Therefore, we're going to save money. And therefore, we can take some of that savings and apply it to what we spent to ruin them by getting the NBA. Boy, that is Machiavellian. And it's not impossible that that's part of the calculation, but that really is something else. And you're either going to be right or wrong, because if there's a carriage dispute at the end of 25, that does save Comcast $60-70 million a month. That's significant.
It is significant. And look, if another party,
And it makes sense for the overpay. That's where TNT really messed up, is allowing for that wiggle room of NBC coming in there, even throwing an NFL type deal for just a B package. Now allowing Comcast to have extra leverage in coming to negotiations with Turner Sports. They possibly could save enough money to justify overpaying for the NBA.
you had actually kept the NBA or had lost, it doesn't matter. They would have the cable dispute. And I don't think it was Machiavellian. That's smart. You're going to look at everything. You're going to look at the promotional power of the NBA to drive your other sports, right? During Olympic year, they can take the NBA and all those ratings and drive Olympics ratings up. They will save money. Comcast will save money from fees they don't have to pay TNT. Sure, they figured all that out. I don't believe, it's funny that we disagree on the sort of negotiating during a exclusive negotiating window, but I don't see anything wrong with NBC having done all that. They're not violating anything to look at all the benefits they'll receive from paying for a new NBA deal. It might help them launch broadcast shows on NBC.
Correct, and that's another layer to this whole puzzle, is the content creation around live sports. What's going to be the new First Take kind of style of shows, the new Undisputeds? It's not a coincidence a lot of these shows are dying down just as streaming is about to take off with live sports. And the viewing audience's interaction with some of these live shows, it might not work under that streaming format. The whole suit and tie, pre-game and post-game show for an hour with these interviews. Remember, these games are going to be on platforms where you can just hit one button, then 20, 30 movies and documentaries all pop up in one screen. So there is going to be plenty of room for more attention-grabbing kind of formats of what's going to be the new pre-game show or post-game show under streaming and all the other undisputed First Take kind of shows. It wouldn't shock me if this will become a brand new marketplace for online personalities not only to shine, but to also collect the bag.
A distributor, a cable distributor, is a buyer and a seller. WBD is trying to sell. I mean, it's just funny that as much as we are looking ahead to Amazon and the tech future that has been now the NBA's goal in that C tier, third tier package, we're also watching the backroom knifing that
That's
goes
why our
on
Justice Department is so busy.
with cable television networks and distributors.
I don't see what they have to deal with here. These companies compete. They're competing fairly.
Not in this case. I was talking about the mergers that happen.
Okay.
They are definitely competing, but the lines are blurred because now with the media sort of infusing within tech, it opens them up to different markets that they normally would have never participated in. Amazon is really products based, but now they're doing live sports. Same thing for NBC Studios and ESPN. They were once just local broadcasting networks. Now they're offering streaming directly to consumers, no different than Netflix. And if Netflix is looked at as a tech company, what does that make ESPN? So the technology has allowed the lines to be blurred as different players now have their hands in different marketplaces, offering different products to their customers. We'll see how this plays out. The contract language that these sports leagues will have to have entering into the world of streaming is going to be a lot different. There has to be access to the audience data and also a way to track the ratings. When those 11 years are up, who will the NBA, the NFL, MLS, WNBA, what numbers and data will they be presenting to not only future streamers, but also the ones they're currently in partnership with? The lines are also blurred there too, because all the metrics will be coming from those same companies handing out the checks. A third-party data tracking would be more logical. But hey, this is all truly the new Wild West.